Chainsaw Man is a weird manga, created by an even weirder man, who naturally draws in a very weird way. How does Tatsuki Fujimoto create such compelling, desirable characters and stories, and how does his offbeat style of drawing complement it so perfectly? Well, by meticulously analyzing and breaking down the art and characters of Chainsaw Man, we can solve this crazy mystery. Oh, and I've also managed to calculate which Chainsaw Man girl has the biggest boobs, so stay tuned. First thing I want to talk about is the character designs. There's always a balance of how cartoonish you draw and how visually wacky you can make your characters. And since Chainsaw Man hovers towards the realism side, it can't be super goofy like a lot of other shonen. Nobody's out here wearing spandex superhero costumes. They just wear black suits, which creates an easily identifiable look, but leaves visual distinctions to the shoulders and above, where Fujimoto gives every major character a subtle but key characteristic quirk in their appearance. Power has her horns, Kobeni has her hair clips, Himeno and Quan Chi have eye patches, Aki has his top knot, Beam is a fucking shark, Kishibe, Yoru, Kurose, and Tendo all have distinctive scars, the list goes on. You know what's funny? One time I had a dream about Tendo, and all I remember is that her hair smelled really good. I'm not kidding, that's real. Moving on, you know who the best designed character in Chainsaw Man is? Pochita. That is also not a joke. You see, there's this thing in design theory referred to as big, medium, and small. I'm bringing in the GOAT, Cynics, to explain this.
Most good designs can be broken down into one large main shape, with a medium shape or shapes taking up a smaller amount of the design area, and some smaller shapes taking up an even smaller amount of the overall design.
Now take a look at Pochita. See what I'm saying? This is why Pochita is the best girl of Chainsaw Man. Nah, I'm just kidding. Best girl's obviously the Worm Devil. Now, what makes Fujimoto's illustrations stand out isn't his great character designs, although he is very good at that. It's not unconventional. What is, though, is his signature messy line quality. Let's talk about the world of inking. One of my favorite things about manga is its restrictive color palette. Coloring is expensive and time-consuming, which is why most manga are black and white. And because of this, mangaka are forced to get creative with screen tones and use different inking techniques to create distinctive styles, often represented by varied line thicknesses and hatching. As my fellow artists know, ink is a scary thing. One little bump and it's over. But this is only when you're drawing traditionally. Nowadays, most manga are drawn digitally, giving artists the ability to infinitely undo, zoom, and stabilize their lines. Which is why it's interesting that despite how easy it is to make every line crisp and perfect, Fujimoto decides to draw with such weird, chicken scratchy lines. Especially around the facial features, there are no strong, hard shapes, and some people are initially put off by its rough unevenness, myself included. But that same sketchy quality is what makes it so memorable. You know what isn't memorable? This never-ending army of power-scaling isekai manhwa that, despite showcasing some pretty impressive digital illustrations, all have the exact same plasticky, cel-shaded art style. Look at these three characters from the manhwa Time-Traveling Necromancer. Notice anything about the art style? What if I told you that I just made that title up, and these are 3 separate series drawn by 3 unrelated artists? You can't even tell! Now look at these 3 guys. None of them are from Chainsaw Man, but I bet you immediately knew it was Fujimoto that drew them. Now that's called being distinct. What's interesting is that juxtaposed with the scratchy way the characters are drawn, the backgrounds are immaculate. Seriously, some of these panels are disgustingly good. Look at this! Fujimoto just casually flexing on us with a 5-point perspective. I can't even open that can of worms right now. I have to save it for another time. Remember how in my Hunter x Hunter video I talked about how the art style mirrored the tone of the story? It's the same thing with Chainsaw Man. The messy line work perfectly encapsulates the insane and grotesque world that it reveals the story of. Right from chapter 1, you're thrust into the action, building up character bonds just to brutally tear them down again. Shonens often take the path of having a license-obtaining arc first, but Chainsaw Man takes the Attack on Titan strategy and just throws you into the good stuff. Literally, on chapter 3, he's a fully licensed devil hunter. Compare this to My Hero Academia, where Deku still hasn't even graduated the damn school yet. 400 chapters in, he's still a fucking freshman. The breakneck pacing is given space to breathe by the paneling. Fujimoto has this really clever way of laying his panels out cinematically, as if each one is a shot of a movie, and emphasizes characters' reactions rather than just ping-ponging back and forth with speech bubbles. And oftentimes, instead of responding, characters will just sit there thoughtfully, which is how things often are in real life too. And in this sense, much of what makes Chainsaw Man so great really can be boiled down into realism. Not photorealism, but rather characters with real flaws, dealing with them in real ways. There are no cute chibi cuts or slice-of-life tropes. Denji is a great example of this. He's an obnoxious pervert, but instead of it just being a literary device to upskirt girls, it's because he's been abused since birth and never had anyone love him before. Instead of being a shallow character disguised as a deep one, he's a deep character disguised as a shallow one. Honestly, everyone in the story is mentally damaged damaged in one way or another, which is likely why so many people take comfort in them. Ultimately, Chainsaw Man is not a happy story, but it does have its happy moments. It's about mentally traumatized people living in a scary and unpredictable world, and despite this, finding reasons to carry on living for one another. It's a lot closer to our own world than we like to think, and in a way, that's more comforting and hopeful than stories of grandeur and exaggerated fanciful happiness. But more importantly, it's time to reveal who has the biggest tits. Well, after carefully analyzing every female character, let me tell you. It's the Worm Devil, ladies and gentlemen. It's the fucking Worm Devil.